you want to know about the areas of Southern Oregon to avoid, right? Because on every other video on YouTube, you're going to only find things about the greatest places and why you should move there and how awesome it is and all these sorts of things. But on this one, I've taken the opposite approach. I'm going to show you on this map tour areas that you may want to think twice about before you visit, before you move to, and all those sorts of things, and tell you from my insider's knowledge of having 30 years or more actually of living here in Southern Oregon, of the places that I think you should probably think again before you decide to explore them and consider them for places to retire to or relocate to, or whatever the case may be. So let's go ahead and dive into the map, and I'm going to start by showing you Southern Oregon, okay? And so when we look at the whole state of Oregon here, I'm going to show you kind of what Southern Oregon is and point that out to you, which is, you see the whole state, right? That's Oregon. Southern Oregon is this little kind of portion down here, all right? And so what we do is we're going to kind of zoom into, whoops, let me get off my little mouse here. We're going to zoom in, and what we're really referring to, especially in this video, is this area, primarily between Ashland and Grants Pass. And so we call this all the Rogue Valley. And we're going to talk a little bit about some areas outside of this, but I want to just take that second to kind of explain the greater, bigger picture so you can see a little bit more about, where we're actually referring to. Because a lot of times people will say, well, is the coast Southern Oregon? Is Klamath Southern Oregon? And in most cases on this channel, we don't really talk about those, but we are going to talk about them a little bit on this video, and you're definitely going to want to stick around so you can find out why that is, okay? So we're going to get into those here shortly. So first, though, I want to start by kind of zooming into Medford and talk about the first place that I would suggest, maybe thinking twice before you relocate to. And I talk about this part of Medford in several other videos, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk about West Medford, okay? And if we look into the kind of downtown area here in Medford, and just if you don't know, Medford is a largest city in Southern Oregon with a population of about 90,000 people. And this is the downtown area where you see all the businesses and everything. And West Medford is generally considered this kind of area from Columbus to Stewart and like that there. So that's kind of the West Medford area, which is one that I would say you maybe want to think twice about before you relocate. And the reason being is it's just kind of the original part of town, right? Like there's a lot of smaller houses that are just not in the greatest of shape. If you were to look down on some of these streets, you're kind of going to be close to there's like some of the homeless shelters and stuff like that, and some of those things. And so you kind of get like a little bit more of those types of people running around, especially when you're close to the parks and the court and the jail and the juvenile detention center, all that. You end up getting a little bit more of those types of people wandering around. And they're, just more visible than anywhere else. Not that that's like a horrible thing or anything, but it's something that does affect property values and affects the desirability of an area. So you'll see here, it's like, this doesn't look like a terrible neighborhood or anything, but if you go into some of the street view on some of these, you'll see like they're just not, like there's nothing wrong with these houses. They're in fine shape and everything, but it's an area that you can get into some parts that are not so great. And as you kind of explore different streets and different parts of the neighborhood, you'll find that some of these are just, a little more run down. Like some of these, like we call them the fruit streets, Peach Street, which you'll see right here, Orange Street. There's Laurel, that's not a fruit, but there's, peach over there, Plum Street, those kinds of, the fruit streets is what we call them. And they're ones that are not the most desirable, for good reason for a lot of cases. And if you look up, crime data in Medford, you'll see that a lot of it tends to center around, let me reorient our map here. A lot of it tends to center around the West Medford area. And again, that's primarily from Jackson to Stewart and like this, off of Columbus and all this kind of area in here. Okay. So I would put an X through there if I were considering Southern Oregon, unless, and this is the caveat, unless you are looking at lower price point. So maybe you want to be in the 300s or maybe lower than that, and you don't want to rent, and you're okay with a small home. Okay. Cause you can find really nice pockets of homes in here. And I want to be clear about that. Like, this is not a just full-on exit off your list for everybody. There are some great little pockets in here. I've sold homes to people in here that absolutely love it. You'll find some cottages that are historic and stuff, but they tend to be smaller. They tend to be more original. Sometimes they've been beautifully remodeled, and those are great. But sometimes, that's just not the case, and it tends to be, the case more often than not, honestly. So West Medford is the first area that I would say, you probably want to think twice about. And the second area is actually not far away. The second area is one that is over on this side of town, which I'll point out, which is right over in this kind of area. And I would call it kind of the Hawthorne area. So this is by Hawthorne Park. And so I've talked about this in other videos on this channel about why, Hawthorne Park isn't that great. And it's primarily because the Bear Creek Greenway, which you'll see here is this walking path, goes right along I-5 and goes here. So this walking path is a corridor for homeless. And they tend to want to camp on these, areas kind of along the path. And so that, makes it kind of a little bit sketchy to a lot of people. So that's something that I, talk about again in many videos. I actually did a walk through this area around Hawthorne Park on the Greenway in one of my recent videos, and showed you guys that why it is widely considered the most dangerous part of Southern Oregon. There's been a lot of crime. There's been people that have been shot. There's been all sorts of stuff in that area. So I would tend to believe that, the homes kind of within that close proximity are probably not the greatest. And again, there's definitely caveats to that, right? So there's a beautiful neighborhood that's actually really close, which is this neighborhood right here off of Geneva, Minnesota. This is a historic neighborhood in Medford, part of the historic district, and these houses are beautiful. Original homes, really, really well done, nice cobblestone street. And then up here, this is a great little neighborhood off of Minnesota, just really pretty houses, nice landscaping and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this type of a neighborhood. This is a really, really pretty neighborhood. But again, if you go back over to like a Hawthorne Park, you can kind of see if we pop down here on the street, Hawthorne Park tends to have a lot of homeless going on in it, as you can see here on the street view, and the Greenway, which goes right underneath here, is, like I said, kind of a corridor for that type of activity. So one thing to note, though, as I mentioned, this is an area you may want to avoid. This is actually an area that may be worth considering as an investment, because just as of yesterday, when I'm recording this video, they just passed in the city of Medford a new, I don't want to call it a law, but essentially they passed further exploration of a project that will redevelop this entire area here. And it's called the Creekside Quarter. And what they're talking about doing is essentially putting a baseball stadium here for a semi-pro baseball team, and really doing a huge redevelopment project of this area. And so if that's something that happens, this area could turn out to be a really, really amazing investment, and everything kind of around it, right? So if you were able to get in these kind of streets around, Genesee, which actually has some really good restaurants on it on this stretch, and into these streets over here, I would think that you would be in a pretty good spot to be able to potentially do some sort of short-term rental or other type of investment property with the attractions and stuff that are going to be going on right here in the future. We don't know exactly when that's going to be, or even if it's going to pan out, but they did pass the bill, or whatever you want to call it, to continue that exploration, and it seems to be supported pretty widely by most of the people in Southern Oregon. So those are the two kind of areas, though, that as of right now are ones that most people are going to probably go take a look at and say, you know what, that's not the type of place that I want to be. With the exception, again, of some of those smaller pockets, like I said, that, Genesee and Minnesota, that's a really cool area. And as you get into some of these nice, areas like in Portland Avenue and stuff, there's some really cool, charming little cottages and stuff that have been redeveloped and stuff like that. They're really, really nice. So, so there are, little pockets here and there that are beautiful, and even the, kind of, I don't know if I want to call them the worst neighborhoods of Southern Oregon, but the areas that most folks would say, yeah, you know what, I don't know, that's where I want to be. But even in those, there's still good places that a lot of people are going to be like, wow, that's a really beautiful house, or that's a really good deal. And they are very, very happy in those areas. So that is all worth noting. So outside of Medford, if we keep going on our list here of places that I would say you might want to think twice about, another one is right to the north, and that is the town of White City. And again, I've talked about this quite a bit on this channel in other videos where we're discussing, the similar topic. So let's zoom into White City, and I will show you kind of what's going on here. So White City is known to be kind of one of the more affordable areas of Southern Oregon, and that's for reasons, right? There's a lot of mobile home parks, and what you find in White City, unfortunately, is a lot of see this kind of stuff, a lot of this kind of stuff going on, right? And I think you can probably catch on to what I'm talking about there. Let me orient our map a little bit better here and get a little more straight. There we go. But what we're seeing is, these kind of areas where you get a lot of junk around in the yards, a lot of trailers and cars parked. It looks like kind of a junkyard. And you also get some other kind of interesting things going on here. And I'll show you if I can zoom in and get you on the street here, where you end up with a lot of graffiti and those sorts of things in this area. And so what we see is that, some folks are just like, you know what, that's really not what I am looking for, right? I don't know if I want my neighbor to have, this kind of stuff and this kind of stuff and this kind of stuff going on, right? They kind of don't really love that. But that being said, if you're looking for a townhouse, there's some great options that are in nice little pockets that are very, very affordable. And even on over this way, Phaedra, which is right here. Phaedra's super popular little neighborhood. Jacqueline Way, again, lots of great little townhouses. And there's nothing wrong with these types of pockets where you get some really nice, homes and stuff. And let's kind of zoom into one of these and I'll show you. These neighborhoods, nice, clean little, good looking houses, yards are fine. Everything looks good. So you could get into these neighborhoods, again, at a lower price point because it's in White City and find something that you're totally happy with. But you just have to go in knowing that you're going to also have, trailer parks, pretty, frequently. They're around quite a bit, in White City. And, if that's something you're okay being around, then no problem, then you're good to go. But some folks, do not like that. And that's why that is on our list of the areas that you may want to think twice about. I don't want to bash on White City too hard because I know I've got people that love it. And I actually, again, sell plenty of houses in the White City area. So let's move along from White City. And I'm going to tell you about the next spot that is on our list that's actually made its way onto plenty of my lists about Southern Oregon on the not so good list. I'm not going to call them the naughty list, but it's the list of places that you may want to, again, think twice about and maybe do a little bit of additional research. And that is the area of Cave Junction. Okay, so Cave Junction, I feel like gets a bad rap because of what it was in the past. And I put it on this list because it hasn't fully come back yet. There's some nice new development going on, like over here, Pomeroy and Retirement Lane, the Pomeroy River Estates. This whole area, nice little community. This whole area off of Hamby Lane, nice little community, okay? But what Cave Junction is known for is being a little bit of the Wild Wild West. It had, in the past, was pretty popular among the cannabis industry when that was going really, really strong. The town looks, nothing wrong with it, right? It looks like a good little town. If you happen to go into the town, though, this is an absolute must stop at Taylor Sausage. It is amazing. They have great jerky. You can go and get a good lunch there. It's a meat market and everything. So 100%, if you go to Cave Junction, you've got to stop at Taylor Sausage. So have to give them a shout out there. But as you continue on down the street here, you'll just see like the town doesn't look like, you know, a total dump or anything. It's a fine little town. This is Highway 199 that goes from Grants Pass over to the coast. So, you know, it gets well traveled. And so Cave Junction tends to get a lot of that, you know, pass through traffic, people swinging by, you know, grabbing lunch on their way from, you know, Grants Pass or Medford or wherever, over to the coast, to Brookings and stuff. So you get a lot of that type of traffic. But again, it's just not the best, you know, reputation, as a community and stuff. You get to kind of some of these side streets, and you'll have, you know, some okay homes and stuff here and there. And then you'll have kind of like White City, just some others that you're like, I don't know if I want my neighbor, you know, having all that stuff in their yard or whatever. And so, a lot more wooded, here in Cave Junction. So it does have a little more of that kind of like foresty type of a feel, whereas like White City is just kind of wide open. So it's kind of an interesting spot. But again, like the reputation really came from what it was in the past when the cannabis industry was really like going strong. And Josephine County, which Cave Junction resides in, didn't have a lot of law enforcement because there wasn't, the funding bill essentially didn't get passed. And so there was, you know, 2 or 3 sheriff, there were 2 or 3, you know, deputies in the sheriff's department, from my understanding, that were patrolling all of Josephine County. And so it was kind of known, like you go out to Cave Junction and it's, you know, wild west. You never know what's going to happen out there. That is not really the case anymore. There's funding, you know, has all changed and everything's been good in that regard. And that's where you're seeing a lot of this development type stuff happening. So I don't want to, you know, bash on Cave Junction because I think you can get a really good deal out here. These houses out in this neighborhood, Pomeroy View and Pomeroy River Estates. And it's actually more than what you can see here. There's more development that's gone on in this neighborhood, over in here. All this is, you know, there's a lot more development that's gone on there. And in other areas. And so I want to make sure you're clear on that. Like there's a lot of good happening out here too. And so it's important to note that like these homes though, in comparison to a place like Grants Pass or Medford, like these are gonna be significantly less money. But these homes are nice, you know, 3-bed, 2-bath, single level, pretty good homes. You can see they've got good sized yards and stuff. These are places that in Grants Pass would probably be, you know, in the upper 4s, maybe 500, and in Cave Junction, they're going to probably be in the lower 4s. And so again, your dollar is just going to stretch a lot further, over here in Cave Junction, where, you know, in comparison to the more popular, areas like Grants Pass. The knock against Cave Junction is the drive. It's about a 40-minute drive from Cave Junction into Grants Pass. And so, it's kind of a little bit of a windy road here on 199. But to get to the hospital, to get to Fred Meyer or Walmart or Home Depot, you know, you have a bit of a drive, and that's something that's a turnoff for some people. And, hence why Cave Junction tends to be a little bit more budget friendly, you can say. But as we continue on that, topic of being more budget friendly, there's 2 other areas that are in that camp, and one of them is further down the road from Cave Junction. If you're coming from Grants Pass area and you go to Cave Junction and you continue on, you go all the way into California and then come up to Brookings. And when I'm talking about Brookings, I'm talking about the Oregon coast, right? So we're really talking about more of this area from Gold Beach to Brookings. And what you'll hear, and what I hear a lot, is people who are from, you know, out of town, and they're like, hey, I'm really considering the Oregon coast. And that's something that is, I always ask, well, have you been there? A lot of people will want to explore the Oregon coast who have not been there before. They think of it similar to the California coast, or, you know, like a nice kind of warmer beachy area. And that's just not the case. The Oregon coast is cold and drizzly most of the year, gray, and the towns are kind of not the greatest and stuff like that. But of the towns, Brookings is actually one of my favorite towns of the Oregon coast. It's got a lot of fun stuff going on in terms of fishing. There's some good stores, like there's a Fred Meyer that you'll see here. So like there's, you know, decent shopping. There's actually some really good restaurants in Brookings, like this one here. Superfly is really good. Fat Irish, the pub there is really, really good. There's Catalyst Seafood is fantastic. If you're looking for fresh seafood, that's a really, really good spot. But Brookings is a good spot for outdoor recreation. So fishing, the Chetco River comes right in. And a lot of guys will launch their boats here and go out to the ocean and go, tuna fishing or rock fishing or whatever the case is. So a lot of good stuff, for that in Brookings. But what you don't get in Brookings is convenience. You're very far away from the hospital in Grants Pass. You're about 2.5, 3 hours. I call it 2.5 hours, let's say, to the hospital in Grants Pass. And there is a little kind of emergency, I don't know if I'd even call it a hospital, in Brookings and in Gold Beach. There's basically like urgent care type facilities where they essentially will just try to stabilize you and get you to the hospital. And so that's something that if you're, especially considering the area for retirement and medical, proximity to medical care is important to you, then Brookings is an area, and the rest of the Oregon coast is an area that you probably want to steer clear of. Beautiful for photography, beautiful for recreation, lots of fun, things to do. But I always, tell people, look, like, go spend a week there. And if you last the week, then maybe consider it. But it's pretty isolated, it's pretty small, and it seems to typically not be what a lot of people kind of envision in their head when they think about, the beautiful Oregon coast. And then they go actually spend time there and they're like, you know what, maybe this would be a good spot to go visit rather than actually live. And so that's why we find the Oregon coast on one of the lists, or one of the positions on this list of places that you probably don't want to move to. And similar to that, we're going to actually make our trip over here from the coast back over into the Rogue Valley, and then we're going to go all the way over here to Klamath Falls. Okay, so let's talk about Klamath Falls. I get questions fairly regularly about Klamath Falls because people will be looking on Zillow or whatever website they're looking at, and they'll say, you know what, I found this really cool area in Klamath Falls that's very affordable, and I don't understand why, this house in Klamath Falls is, half the price of what it is in Medford or Grants Pass or wherever. And I say again, well, have you ever been there? And typically it's a no. And that's kind of the story, right? When people go there and explore it for themselves, they're like, oh, I see what you meant. Klamath Falls is kind of, I would say, no disrespect to Klamath Falls, but it's a little run down. There's not a lot going on there. It does have a Walmart. It has some other, stores like that. But it's just kind of isolated. It's high desert, so the elevation is going to be much higher. It's going to be much colder. You're going to get snow and those sorts of things. And what it really is, the town is really based on all of this. See all this agriculture around? That's what it is. And as you kind of zoom out even further, you'll see these areas out here like dairy and bonanza and all this. You see just this big amount of agriculture stuff going on here. Lots of farming. There's potato farms and stuff like that are out here. What Klamath is also known for is the Kingsley Field, which is a big Air Force base. And so, without that and a couple other kind of staples of the community, OIT is what I was thinking of. The Oregon Institute of Technology is a college, Oregon Tech here, which is great, the Sky Lake Medical Center. So there is a hospital there. But that's like one of the greatest things that Klamath has going for it is those areas right there. And that's what attracts a lot of people, in addition to the Air Force Base, which is the majority of people. So not a lot going on in terms of the downtown area though. And you kind of get into some of these like off streets, and if we can see what some of these look like, just kind of, again, like a little more old school, original, smaller buildings, smaller homes, and stuff like that. And this is, not the greatest sampling. I'm just randomly clicking on streets here. But Klamath, I really encourage people, like, if you're interested in it at all, just go take a quick drive through and tell me what you think after you've spent a day there. And I think you'll typically come back and say, you know what, I kind of see why the dollar stretches a lot further there. So a couple things of what Klamath has going for it. Again, like, the Upper Klamath Lake is a huge lake, big freshwater lake. It's shallow. So it's not like a recreational lake where you go out, wake surfing and wakeboarding and all that kind of stuff. But you can fish on it. A lot of people fish and duck hunt and those sorts of things. And they really, really like it for that. The Running Wire Ranch is one of the best golf courses in all of Southern Oregon. It's the only, if I don't hate me if I got my facts wrong here, but I believe, because I did a video about this recently, that is the only Arnold Palmer designed golf course in Oregon. And it's really, really spectacular. I absolutely love this course. And if you are in the area and you are a golfer, you've got to come check it out because it's spectacular. So you will definitely not be disappointed if you go check that one out. So that's one thing it does have going for it. The hunting is great around Klamath. The ranching and stuff is great around Klamath. And the dollar does stretch further. So if you're, look, I'm not picky. I just want a place that I can call my own. I'm okay with a little bit of a fixer-upper, or I'm okay with being in a neighborhood that's not the most desirable in terms of resale value and those sorts of things. Then look, Klamath might be a great option for you. And obviously there's plenty of people living here, and there's I know plenty of people that do live over there, and they absolutely love it. So I'm just telling you what I hear from most people that I work with that have gone over there and explored Klamath as an option compared to the other areas of Southern Oregon, like we talked about, Medford and Ashland, and the general kind of more, popular Rogue Valley area that tends to be a lot more desirable. So look, if you're considering making a move to Southern Oregon, I really encourage you to download our relocation guide. It is on the screen right now. You can scan that QR code and we'll provide all sorts of information for you about the different parts of Southern Oregon, the best parts that we love a lot, the parts that you may want to avoid, and some things that you can do when you're in town. As always, reach on out. If there's any questions that you have, don't hesitate, call, text, email, whatever you'd like to do. And I'm more than happy to help you. I am Brian Simmons with the Buying Southern Oregon team. We've helped hundreds of folks to make this move just like you, to relocate or retire here to Southern Oregon. And I would be more than happy to help you do the same thing. So reach on out. If there's anything I can do to help you, I really appreciate you watching this video. And I hope you'll watch the next one with us, and check out more videos on our channel. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.